Shalom. We are preparing Parashah Mishpatim, and that is the Parashah that is in between the speaking of the 10 words and then the receiving of the first set of tablets and what is happening in between. Now, we're not going to touch on that today. I'm not going to speak about that today. I just want to lay some foundation regarding searching the scripture. Just some practical points in how to search the scripture, how to define doctrine, how to make sure that we're not going down little rabbit trails that's in conflict with Yahweh scripture. So the first thing I want to mention is that truth is defined by more than one witness. So that means at least 2 witnesses. Now the example we have of that in a practical sense with symbolism is the menorah. The menorah's got a center branch, and you need to have at least 2 branches, one on the left, one on the right, confirming what the branch is about, or what that truth or that doctrine is about, and they need to be coming from different places, one on the left, one on the right. That means there's 2 verses that confirm the same thing from this different passages in scripture. So that is the basic fundamental description of what truth is. The other tool that I use a lot is whenever you want to find the actual true meaning of any word or any concept, you go back and find the place where it's first used in scripture. Then you read the context of that passage. It will normally be in the context of a story or an event, because all those words go back normally to the book of Genesis. And we know that Genesis is Bereshit, in the beginning. So when Yahweh had the first thought about anything, it's relating to his creation and his creation process and what flowed from there. So everything we are analyzing, we want to analyze and want to understand what it's about, we go back to where it's found the first place. And that will give you the true meaning of what that's actually about. And then the third thing is Hebrew is a action language. So we take that word then and we look at the root word of that word, which is normally a verb. And the verb will give you the action associated with that word, which might be an object, description of the object, or whatever the word might be. And that will give you a practical sense of what that word is about. And then you can also find the place where that root word is first used in scripture, and then read the context and find the true essence of the root word or the verb, and then overlay that with just a normal word where you found that first in scripture. And then you meditate and you think about those 2 things in relation to one another. And that will give you depth within the meaning of that word and the essence of that word and the practical application of that word as an action. The fourth thing that you do then, or can do after that, is to look at patterns. Now, patterns exist because Yahweh's word is holographic. Yahweh's creation is holographic. What I mean by that? It's as simple as recognizing the golden ratio, for example. It's found within humans, the ratio of how we are constructed, the ratio of our eyes relevant to the face, and then the ratio between the arms and the legs and the rest of the body. They're all relating to the golden ratio. That same ratio is found within plants. It's found within animals. It's also found within nature, like the sea, waves of the sea. And the way the waves break, they form the golden ratio, which which look like a seashell. Those little shells that curl up. That's the golden ratio. Even sound is subject to the golden ratio. Human emotions are subject to the golden ratio. If you look at the markets and how people respond to the markets. So everything that we are and the place where we live in and where we exist are of the same kind, but from a different point of view. So we always need to honor that. We also always need to honor the patterns and make sure they're always in sync and in true harmony. Now, saying the word harmony relates to sound, relates to music. And if something is out of sync regarding the frequency within the music, we say that is off, or the note is off, and it sounds horrible. Everything needs to be in harmony, resonating in unison, being multiple factors of the main fundamental frequency in order for that to sound natural and to sound right to the ear. In the same way, Yahweh's word is expressed through sound, through speech, and his words are in 100% harmony with one another. Some aspects have little bits that confirm the larger, and then you get larger things that confirm the largest. And that's basically where the menorah pattern with the main fundamental frequency is in the middle, and then you get your harmonics, which are the side branches. And as you go further and further away from the main, you get a smaller amplitude or intensity of the harmonic or the higher frequency bands, but they are still 100% in sync, confirming the main frequency. Now, what I mean about that, or another aspect to that, is that within the smallest you can extrapolate or calculate the largest, and within the large you can forecast what the small can be through mathematics. So you can calculate the harmonics either from the harmonic itself, or you can calculate from the fundamental frequency what the harmonics is. And if you play piano and you play a chord, it's the main frequency with its harmonics. That's why it sounds so nice and natural. Now, within the harmonics and the chords and the calculation, because anything to do with music is also mathematical, and mathematics that also relates to nature and science. Now, where that comes into play is the next level that I use as part of my studies. I look at the mathematics that's underlining within the text, within the Hebrew language. Every Hebrew letter is a number, and the combination of letters makes up words, and it gives a total number, which you add up every single number of every letter, and those words harmonize with other words that add up to the same fundamental number, or the main number. Now, you can think of that as a little dictionary. Now, a little dictionary will have all the supporting words of what that main word means in relation to its harmonics or to its gematria, its little connections to other smaller letters. And that will confirm the main word or the fundamental understanding of what that main word is. And then you think about that main meaning, that main word, in relation to these smaller harmonics or these smaller words, which are derived mathematically through the code that is embedded within the Hebrew language. The other thing that I apply is Hebrew poetry. Now, Hebrew poetry is where thoughts rhyme. Whenever you read about something in scripture, like for example the woman at the well, and it's found in the Old Testament somewhere, you can link that with the woman at the well in the New Testament. And think about those two events in relation to one another, and then meditate on that, and then there's deeper understanding and deeper meaning coming out underneath the surface and present itself to you, so you can understand either the New Testament verse a bit better, relating to the initial pattern, which is called a word picture, And that word picture connects to other word pictures through other symbolism, and then they confirm everything, just like the harmonics. You get smaller and smaller harmonics, but they're of the same kind, and they repeat and confirm the rest of the things. The other main thing that we need to understand, if we think about the Hebrew language expressed through the medium of sound in relation to music, is that music, just playing notes in equal distance to each other, doesn't sound good. You need to have rhythm. Now the rhythm gives it energy. It's sort of a punchiness to it, make it a moody song, make it a nice, happy and upbeat song. So the rhythm or the beat of the music is just as important as the notes themselves. Now if you express that through the Hebrew, that relates to the cycles. Now we talked about the main fundamental cycle, which is the cycle of 7, which is first found in Scripture when Yahweh defined a week. And the cycle of 7 is the main fundamental frequency or the rhythm of all the other rhythms within Scripture. Now, all the other rhythms are expressed in the word Yom. And Yom means time. It also means day. It also means cycles. It also means months and years. It's an estimation or expression of how time is sectioned, and it can also reveal the largest of all, which is eternity. So Yom in its perfect form exists in the spiritual, expressed in eternity, which is a state. And if you bring it into the world of duality, there is separation that happened within the time, and that's where Yahweh created the rhythms called day and night, where he set up the larger bodies in the firmament or under the firmament, which is the sun and the moon, and the one rule over the daylight and the other one rule over the night. But they're of the same kind, and they belong to the type of concept of division of time, which is Yom. So the concept of a day or Yom in its purest form is a time period or a rhythm that can be of different lengths. Now if you have different lengths, it means you can have things that are in sync, like you have a main beat and a quarter beat. The quarter beat is in sync with a main beat, so you can't have a beat that's off beat. It won't sound good. You all need to be in harmony as well in order to have the rhythm in harmony, and that's where the cycles of Yahweh need to be in sync with one another and of the same kind in order to make sense. Now I'm just saying these things to lay the foundation of analyzing Yahweh's word, Yahweh's words, Yahweh's understanding of what meanings are, the word patterns, the word pictures, the timings, as well as the Moedim in the context of the largest, which is eternity. And we need to honor and work within all these things, not stepping out of any of these basic fundamental tools, in order to make sure that we define everything we study in Scripture according to the set of guidelines which I just talked about. So if you have that in your toolkit and you analyze the Scripture, regardless which topic it is, it will always keep you safe, so you won't go astray coming up with something that is contradictory to something else in Scripture that causes confusion. The other golden rule is one passage in Scripture can never contradict another passage in Scripture. There is some connection, some way, shape or form in relation to the things I just mentioned that make sure that they're always in harmony, of the same kind, within the same pattern, sitting within the fingerprint of Yahweh, which is his overall pattern system and harmonics within the expression of his words. which formed everything in His creation. So we need to respect those things as our guidelines in order to understand His Word and study His Word. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but these basic fundamental principles we need to understand in order not to create another denomination with another set of doctrines that's contradictory to other parts in Scripture or other fundamental understandings of what Yahweh gave us. Yeah, so Yahweh is complex, His Word is complex, but if you break it down to the simplistic form, you can just extrapolate that, and then you can understand the larger as well. So we find ourselves understanding His Word better if we're all in harmony, all in the rhythm and the cycles of the larger intent. And that's why it's good to understand the motive of Yahweh's creation, the motive of why we exist, understanding our existence, our plan He's got for us, and the plan of the Mashiach in order to reveal the truth in the Scripture, which is all about the restoration process. People tend to split hairs and come up with things that cause confusion and infighting and discord amongst the brethren, which was last week's topic, that we should not allow. The Scripture need to defend itself and stand on its own feet. I should never study the Scripture in order to prove my doctrine. Just read the Word for what it is. See what's in front of you and analyze it with these basic principles that I mentioned in order to glean the truth from the text and not force the text to reveal your doctrine. So I just leave you with that, and I hope it shed some light and lay some foundation moving forward within this year for the Torah portions. And I hope you have a lovely day. I'll speak to you soon. Shalom.